Then did you get what I sent you?
Where?
I just texted it to you. Or I airdropped it. I'm trying to test it.
I had to, and she was not. She ratted me out.
Did you break WD-40?
I know.
Can you get it any lower?
My feelings are hurt very bad right now. Very bad. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to say this again as clearly as possible. This shutdown is a choice made by Democrats. It's a conscious decision by Democrats to put violent, illegal criminals ahead of American people. That's their choice. Let's talk about what was happening before this shutdown. Law enforcement officers were doing their sworn duty, arresting and deporting dangerous individuals who should have never been in the country to begin with. We're talking about child molesters, rapists, and murderers. People who threaten the lives every day of Americans. People who threaten our families. People who threaten the safety of our children. These are the convictions of the violent, illegal criminals who were arrested in just my home state. Now, in Chicago, my heart breaks for the Sheridan Gorman family. She was just 18 years old and had her whole life ahead of her. Sadly, her parents will never see her graduate and walk across the stage. That's a shame. And it could have been and should have been prevented. Why? All because Democrats flooded our country with violent, illegal criminals like the Venezuelan who murdered Sheridan. He was released into our country by the Biden administration, arrested for shoplifting, then released again, because once wasn't enough, you got to release him, let him go back, commit another crime, and then release him again. Maybe the third time's a charm. Then released again by the Biden administration. Just think of that. Think of that. Think if that was your child. Just think about that for a minute. As a mother, it absolutely infuriates me because Democrats are refusing to put my children, our children, American children, over these violent, illegal criminals. That's not hypothesis. That is fact. And if you don't believe it, why don't you talk to Sheridan's parents? I just get irritated, and I can't believe this is going on in America. Democrats are back to their old chant, defund the police. I mean, that is who they are. Make them own that. Here's the thing, though. It's time, not just a slogan. This is a shutdown of our homeland security. And the consequences are real. Just look at the numerous terrorist attacks that have happened on American soil in just the last few weeks. Attacks by violent terrorists on our homeland that have taken the lives of innocent Americans. Of course, while all of this is happening, Republicans have actually done the responsible thing. See, we stand with law enforcement. We stand with the victims. We don't stand with the criminals. We actually stand with the family of Sheridan. We don't stand with the violent criminals. The Democrats do, but we don't. And please remind them of that. Because Hakeem Jeffrey couldn't even denounce this. I mean, that is sick. That is sad, right? Listen, while all of this is going on, Republicans have to do the responsible thing, and we are going to continue to do the responsible thing. We have voted again and again to fund our homeland security to protect Americans. And we're going to do it again this week with a clean DHS funding bill. And like last week and the week before, I expect that nearly every single Democrat will vote to defund law enforcement again. Every single one of them will vote to expose the American people to threats of terrorism. They will be voting to make communities less safe, and they will risk the lives of the American people to make sure that we protect the violent criminals, right? Those are your Democrats. Those are the Democrats that you all support. It sickens me. I'm here to protect Americans, and I'm here to protect law-abiding citizens. And that's what we're going to vote again. We're going to stop playing politics. We're going to put the American people first again. And I will close by saying this. Thank you, President Trump, for doing what the Democrats refuse to do. And thank you for always putting Americans first. Thank you for using every single resource at your disposal to keep Americans safe. And to the Democrats, it's really simple. Fund the Homeland Security and represent the people that elected you. Supposedly they should be Americans, but represent the American people. Fund our law enforcement and get on board with deporting violent, illegal criminals that threaten the safety of every single American. This isn't hard. This is common sense. Thank you. Jay? You're going to want to put it up now.
Lisa, why is this podium so short?
Just put it up as big.
Folks, we are here today because of a terrible tragedy last week. Last Thursday morning, 18-year-old Sheridan Gorman was walking in a park with her friends when she was tragically shot and killed by a man who was in this country illegally. And here are the facts. He had been arrested and released twice, most recently for the crime of shoplifting. He was released despite the request of the U.S. government that he be detained and deported. And he was released as a result of sanctuary city policies and, unfortunately, sanctuary state policies like those in my home state of California. Now, regardless of what party we belong to, we should all be able to agree that this situation was completely unacceptable. I think most of us have children, grandchildren, friends that were about that age. I do myself, and I can't imagine the heartache that Sheridan's parents are going through this morning. This incident was 100% preventable. It should not have occurred. And the American people expect us to put a stop to the policies that allowed this situation to occur, because those policies still persist today. It's not a partisan issue. It shouldn't be a partisan issue. This should never happen again.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Juan Ciscomani. I'm from District 6 in Arizona, a district with an international airport, a border with Mexico, many Border Patrol and CBP agents, ICE, HSI, and other Homeland Security personnel living in my district. A state that gets struck by devastating wildfires every year, where FEMA is essential to the survival of the state. First and foremost, I want to say this to all DHS employees: thank you. Thank you for showing up to work every single day. Thank you for what you do for our nation. Thank you for showing up in spite of not getting paid right now. This shutdown, which has been purely inflicted by House and Senate Democrats, is not your fault. And you shouldn't be paying the consequences of the Democrats' political games. It is wrong, and it is personal to all of you to have to go without a paycheck for now 40 days. That is absolutely wrong. As Vice Chairman of the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Homeland Security, I directly worked on this funding bill. And I can assure you that we did this funding bill in coordination, cooperation, and work with Democrats. They worked on this bill. They agreed to it. They were okay with it, and this was going through until they decided to let political games and political extremism come into play and now putting people's lives in danger. We owe it to these men and women to provide the certainty of their next paycheck, not chaos, and we owe it to our constituents to prioritize national security, not political extremism. Now, we're taking action this week with my bill, Pay Our Homeland Defenders Act, which will be considered by the House tomorrow. We expect Democrats to once again vote to defund law enforcement, vote against our national security interests. This legislation is straightforward, though. It ensures the TSA agents and all DHS personnel, all of them, are paid for their critical work they do, even as broader negotiations continue on this. Now, remember, the bill that we're going to vote for tomorrow is the same one that they negotiated and we were okay at a conference for. And I want to do a special urge and a specific urge to Senate Democrats to end this shutdown immediately, including both of Arizona senators, Senator Mark Kelly and Senator Ruben Gallego. You are again, I emphasize on again, being paid while withholding pay from thousands of federal employees and putting our national security at risk once again. That is shameful. End this shutdown now. The weakest this week to end it and go back to securing our national interest. Thank you.
Sheridan Gorman was just 18 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her, as Lisa said. A freshman in college, looking for the northern lights with her friends, only to be shot in the head by an illegal alien who was caught and released by the Biden administration, and who had also been arrested in Chicago and released because of Democrat sanctuary policies, because of another incompetent governor and incompetent leader. Sheridan was not at the wrong place at the wrong time. She was exactly where she should have been, making memories with her friends in her first year of college. The only person in the wrong place was her killer, who should have never been allowed into America to begin with, let alone allowed to remain in the country after committing crimes. If Democrats had their way, this would be the story of every city in America. The illegal alien who killed Sheridan Gorman is exactly who Democrats are fighting to protect with their needless shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. Their absurd list of demands paints a clear picture. Open borders, limited deportations, and violent illegal aliens roaming free. Democrats want to return America to the days of the Biden border crisis. But that's not going to happen. We're not going to go back. This week, the House is going to vote once again to fund all of DHS. We will vote to end this shutdown, pay the frontline heroes of Border Patrol, TSA, and the Coast Guard, and put the security of our nation first. But Democrats will continue to obstruct. Why? Because they'd rather protect violent illegal aliens over the American people. With that, I turn it over to our leader, Steve Scalise.
Well, thank you, Whip. And it's a sad moment that we're up here still talking about the fact that the Democrats continue to shut down the Department of Homeland Security. We've given them multiple opportunities to do the right thing. When you see lines at every airport, people waiting hours and hours. At my airport, home airport in New Orleans, Louis Armstrong International, you've got people sleeping overnight the night before flights so that they can have a chance of making their flight. And for what? Because Democrats want to have yet another tantrum and create chaos in this country because they're angry with the results of the 2024 election. It's time for Democrats to grow up and act like adults. Tomorrow will mark the 8th time that we will have a vote in Congress to fund the Department of Homeland Security. 8 times Democrats will have an opportunity to do the right thing. And you can go look at the votes. Watch the vote tomorrow. Watch the rhetoric from Democrats. Democrats are saying, oh, we want to fund TSA, except they all keep voting against the funding for TSA. And if you think this is the first time they've done it, they had a shutdown, a record shutdown, just a few months earlier. And think about this statistic. For those workers, TSA workers, that many of them live in paycheck to paycheck, they have gone 49% of this fiscal year without a paycheck. A TSA worker here in America has spent the last fiscal year, 49% of that time, they've gone without pay. It's disgraceful what Democrats keep doing. To hard-working families, these are people that have to put food on the table. These are people that have a mortgage to meet, that have to pay rent, that have to pay a car note. Maybe they've got a kid in school. And Democrats really don't care about the 100,000 plus workers at the Department of Homeland Security, whether it be at TSA or whether it be at FEMA or the Coast Guard. Now, they've done this over and over again. For what? Because they want open borders. They want to defund the police. They've done it over and over again. They made it crystal clear. And you would think we've got the safest times in American history. We've had 4 terrorist attacks on our home soil just in the last month. New York, Michigan, Virginia, and Texas have had terrorist attacks in March, while Democrats are voting to shut down the Department of Homeland Security. And of course, it's been brought up, Sheridan Gorman, beautiful young girl with her future before her, murdered by an illegal who was let in during the Joe Biden open border. And Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat leader, can't even say he would have wanted him deported after he committed more crimes after he came here illegally before he murdered her. This is how far the Democrat Party has gone off the rails. They are a party that has lost their way, and millions of people are suffering. It's not just the 100,000 workers at the Department of Homeland Security that are working without pay. It's the millions of Americans who are having flights canceled, who are showing up at an airport and waiting in a parking garage in a line that's going to be over 3 hours long. And by the time they finally get through security, they find out that they missed their flight, and it disrupts their whole week. Democrats don't care about people. You're seeing it play out. And we're going to have an opportunity tomorrow for them to do the right thing. I hope they do the right thing. It's time Democrats end the madness of keeping the Department of Homeland Security shut down at this critical time. It's time they do the right thing. We'll give them that opportunity again tomorrow. And we'll see. There will be a vote that all America can look at, and it'll be the 8th time, not the first time, the 8th time Democrats will have a chance to do the right thing and fund this department. If you in America are waiting in a line for 3-4 hours or missed a flight and you want to know who's responsible, look at the vote on the House floor tomorrow. You will see a yes column and a no column. Who voted yes to fund this department and open TSA up and fund these people that have to go to work and put food on the table for their families? And who's going to vote no to deny that ability and make people keep missing flights? Watch that vote tomorrow. Now, our Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Good morning, everybody. It is a sad morning. We've talked a lot about how the upcoming midterm election is really, it's not a contract with America election that's coming up. It's a contrast for America. That's a good way to summarize it. And it is a contrast between common sense and crazy. The Democrats, this is not your grandfather's Democrat Party. They have crazy policies, and now they have deadly, very tragic consequences. And you've heard this common theme this morning. We're talking about the latest victim. Sheridan Gorman was a beautiful 18-year-old freshman, as has been noted, at Loyola University, enjoying time with her friends out on the pier, looking at the northern lights, and now her family is mourning her tragic and totally unnecessary loss. It was a life tragically cut short. The masked assailant approached Sheridan while she was walking with her friends, and she ran away, and as you know, he shot her from the back, in the back. The monster who did this, Jose Medina, was an illegal alien with a criminal record. Why is that so relevant to us? Because it's Democrat policies that made this tragedy possible. He had no legal right to be in this country. And we know that Medina entered the United States illegally on May 9th, 2023. That's under the Biden administration with their wide open borders policy. We also know he was caught by Border Patrol and let into the country, released into the country, like millions of others. And thanks to the Democrats' open border policy, those are indisputable facts. But for that crazy set of policies, this young lady would still be alive. Weeks later, Medina was arrested in a major American city after they let him in, again, only to be released onto the streets of Chicago. Why? Because of crazy Democrat policies. He would later take the life of Sheridan Gorman. The irony of all this is that the system did not fail Sheridan. That worked exactly as the Democrats intended. You had Democrats in charge of the White House and in charge in the city of Chicago. Open borders policies, sanctuary cities policies. They coddled the criminal illegal alien. They empowered, they allowed this to happen, and that's why we're so angry about it. He was in the custody of law enforcement twice, and there were two chances to stop Sheridan's killer. But Democrats' open borders guaranteed their release, and their soft on crime sanctuary policies ensured his impunity, and that's why this happened. And Sheridan Gorman should still be with us, and her entire life still ahead of her, but it's the same fate that befell Laken Riley, too, and so many others. How many more times does this story have to be repeated? Everybody needs to be asking that question. Unfortunately, the Democrats' agenda was going to continue to come at the expense of American citizens, innocent American people, as long as the Democrats insist on shielding dangerous criminals from our laws, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Now, it's been noted we're 40 days into this shutdown. It's the second longest in history. It's partial, but it's a big one, because they shut down the third largest department of the federal government. It has 10 agencies underneath it, 260,000 plus employees, and each of those agencies have one common denominator. As the name implies, they are to keep the homeland secure. This is not a game, but Democrats have shut down the exact law enforcement agencies that are responsible for apprehending and deporting criminal illegal aliens, just like this criminal here that took Sheridan's life. Congressional Democrats have held our airports, TSA, FEMA, the Coast Guard, so many critical functions of our government. We're talking about anti-bioterrorism matters and issues. You're talking about cybersecurity, all these things. They are holding the government hostage. Why? What is their demand? At the root of all this, they want to reopen the border and they want to protect criminal illegal aliens just like this murderer here. That is the modern Democrat Party. And they verify it for us with their actions every day. This is not talking points. These aren't political talking points. This is the facts. At the State of the Union, you remember, everybody knows, the president said, he asked a very simple question: stand and applaud if you think the first job of the federal government is to protect American citizens over illegal aliens. Every single Democrat in the chamber sat on their hands. At this exact moment, even as we learn of yet another entirely preventable murder of an innocent young woman at the hands of criminal illegal aliens, Democrats in the House are demanding a DHS bill that would eliminate funding for the exact agencies that are tasked with preventing a tragedy like this. Just last week, 190 Democrats voted against two bills. What were those bills? Common sense. Expedite the deportation of illegal aliens who abuse service animals. They voted no. And those who commit fraud in our country. They voted no. You don't have to take our word for it. Look at their actions, and you're going to see it yet again. It's with their words, their actions, their legislation. They tell you what they prioritize, and it is the welfare of criminal illegal aliens over American citizens. We ought to believe what they say and do, their words and actions. Sadly, there will be no Democrats marching in the streets for Sheridan Gorman. They won't even talk about her today. I promise you they won't even bring it up. No one holding signs demanding justice for her killer. It's among the most shameful episodes we have ever seen. They cannot even bring themselves to say that this shouldn't have happened. We hope that someday Democrats finally come to their senses again and put the safety of American citizens first, but we're not holding our breath. Until then, here's what Republicans will do, okay? We're going to pray, obviously, for Sheridan and her family, every American citizen victimized by these senseless, avoidable crimes. We will continue to fight for the rule of law and to call out the madness when we see it. And here's what we will not do. We will not allow Democrats to hold our airports and our country hostage so they can re-implement their catastrophic, deadly open borders policies and threaten the lives of our children. This is common sense versus crazy. Everybody can see it. And they're going to put it on display again tomorrow. As the leader said, we're going to vote to fund Homeland again. And I think that vote tally, that should be blown up. It should be put at poster size in every airport terminal so they can see who voted to keep those lines at TSA winding around the airports and to endanger everybody's lives. Take some questions.
Mr. Speaker.
Right, front row.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Lindsey Graham put out a statement this morning saying that he has consulted with the President and Leader Thune and that he plans to move expeditiously on reconciliation, that this second package will deal with funding Homeland, supporting the military, and addressing voter integrity. Do you think that's feasible? And have you or Chair Arrington had any conversations with Senator Graham?
I talked to Senator Graham last night, and not specifically about this, but other matters. But I'm glad to know the Senate is interested in Reconciliation 2.0. As you know, I have been a broken record. We need to do that. It's an important legislative tool. We already had a set of priorities that we're working on in the House, and it is possible that the defense supplemental will be a part of that package, but we don't yet have the details. And I know you all have a lot of questions this morning about what the number is going to be requested, and so do I. We haven't gotten that yet. I think they're tabulating that. I think the Department of War and OMB and the administration are working that out, and I suspect we'll get a specific request. You know, that's how the process works. And then when we get that, we will go through our processes here to review that and look at it and check its feasibility and all of that. But it may be, sadly, and I would say this, it may, and it would be a sad outcome, that we would have to get a military funding bill done with only Republican votes. That's what the reconciliation package would allow. It's quite sad and really shocking and dangerous. Again, Democrats with their crazy policies, they have Trump derangement syndrome. They would not even, I don't even think they would agree to vote on a bill that would simply restock our munitions. We've used some of those, as you know, in Operation Epic Fury. And we've got to do that. It's a necessity. The first job of the federal government is to protect the people. But Democrats, I don't think we can count on their votes to do the simple, basic responsibility of Congress. And so it is part of reconciliation, probably, and we'll see. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, good morning.
You know.
On the government
Let Chad go first.
On the government shutdown, Mr. Speaker, it seems as though Republicans and Democrats are talking past one another right now. Is the only person who could solve this the President of the United States, and why isn't he involved?
Well, I think he is involved. I mean, I know he had a group of...
He knocked down the plan yesterday.
Well, that's what's been reported. Okay, he brought some...
He said that in the Oval Office, that he was not pleased with that plan.
Well, I actually have his exact quote somewhere. I think he said that, to paraphrase him, I think he said he's a little skeptical or cynical that a deal is going to come together. What we're hearing, okay, in our chamber is that there's discussions going on that Democrats are demanding to break off parts of Homeland and fund it separately. I so appreciate Congressman Ciscomani. As he noted, he was in charge of the Homeland bill as it's in its earliest stages coming through the House, and it was a bipartisan bill. Remember, the Democrats agreed with all that. They understood. It's one of the 12 appropriations bills in their annual appropriations packages, and we always have Homeland funded as an entire department. There's obvious reasons for that. It's very important. I don't think we need to be breaking it apart, and so I think that's what the president is reflecting there. He wants Congress to do its dang job. We have done it, the Republicans have, but the Democrats are refusing to go along on that, even though just several weeks ago, they were in favor of it. Now, they don't think it's politically advantageous for them, and they're playing games, and it's endangering the lives of American citizens, and it's causing real hardship for people. Do you know that there are 450, approximate number this morning, we heard, 450 TSA agents who are no longer going to work for the agency? How can you blame them? As Leader Scalise said, 49% of FY26, the fiscal year, they have been unpaid. This is a real hardship for their families. And all the travelers, business travelers, people traveling to go to funerals and weddings and with their families, they can't get through the airports because the Democrats are playing games up here. And you know what? You should ask the ultimate question, why? Why is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, why are they doing this? Why would they know this is crazy. They have to know it's crazy to not be able to call this out. Why are they doing it? Because they're afraid of their radical base. Boom, that's it. That's why they gave us the longest shutdown in history last fall, and that's why we're on the second longest shutdown in history right now. They are afraid to go to their base and say that they're doing anything that complies with common sense and their basic responsibility because their base is screaming that they're not fighting Trump enough. It's crazy. I don't know another word to describe it, and they're putting everybody in jeopardy, all the inconvenience and all the hardship for their own political skins. That's it, right there.
Mr. Speaker.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Thank you very much. First off, go Lady Tigers on Friday. Second of all, there's talk about the Pentagon is supposedly dispatching 2,000 troops. How is that not putting boots on the ground? And you said we're not at war. How is that not an escalation of war in Iran?
Look, I think it sends a signal to Iran that they better get their act together. We need to resolve this quickly, and that's the president's interest, and that's ours. It's everyone's. We need to. Operation Epic Fury is almost done. I mean, I think the mission that was very clearly defined in the beginning, the objectives have been met. We have to get the Strait of Hormuz straightened out, and we need our international partners to help with that because it's a giant project that involves everybody around the world at some level. So I'm optimistic that's going to happen. The buildup of troops is very different than boots on the ground. We don't have boots on the ground. I don't think that's the intention, but I think Iran should watch that buildup, and they need to take note of that. They have to reopen the strait. They have to be good neighbors to their Middle East neighbors over there in the region. They cannot have a nuclear warhead. They cannot have that capability, and they cannot declare war on the United States and Israel, which is what they did, decades ago. Our mission will be accomplished. I think that will wrap up in a short time period, and I know that's the intention of the administration and the Department of War. We have the greatest, most powerful military fighting force ever conceived in the history of planet Earth. It's an amazing power that we have, and we wield it for good. We've done it here. That job is almost done, and I think it will wrap up soon.
Mr. Speaker, you said a few weeks ago that we are not at war with Iran. Is that still your position?
I think we're wrapping up Operation Epic Fury. That's what I think, and I think it will be done in short order, and that'll be right on schedule. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. President Trump has railed against mail-in voting as rigged. He said it's a form of cheating as recently as Monday. But he's also called on Congress to do away with certain types of mail-in voting in certain circumstances. But in yesterday's special election in Florida, he voted by mail. How do you square those two statements?
Look, I think some states have handled mail-in balloting well. I think Florida is a good example of that. They don't allow fraud, and they have great systems. I was talking yesterday to Laurel Lee, one of our colleagues here in the House, and she used to help run elections in the state of Florida, and she talked about how many great processes they have in place to ensure that you don't have a lot of fraud. But that is not true in other parts of the country, and that is the concern, especially in a state like California or states where they just send mail-in ballots to everyone for no reason whatsoever. It is a matter of common sense. It is an obvious thing that if you're mailing ballots out, inherently it opens the door, at least the possibility of fraud. It's much easier to patrol that election integrity if you're making people come in person, show a photo ID, and prove who they are. Obviously, that's an obvious thing. It should not be a controversial notion. That's what the president's talking about. That's what we have talked about at long length. Some states do it a lot better than others, but it doesn't mean it's not a problem elsewhere in the country, and that's why we continue to advance every election integrity measure that we can, because, if you don't have free and fair elections in a constitutional republic, you cannot maintain it. And there's hardly a more important issue than that. And that's where the president's hung up on it, and us as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
If the Lady Tigers